What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Ever since the dawn of time, or at least since I started private practice like 12 years ago, I always wondered how other therapists spent their time between sessions, because I've always worked in a setting where I was in an office space where other therapists were working too. Almost universally, therapists have their door closed between sessions. And so it's like, what you doing in there? What you doing? What's going on in there? And back in the day, I used to assume that people were like, writing notes and doing their like continuing education or like reading some very dense book about some therapy technique. And now that I've been doing this for a while, I realize that maybe a little bit of that is true, but there's definitely other stuff that we do between sessions. Might I say that we need to do between sessions in order to take care of ourselves, in order to be a good therapist. So I took to Instagram, I put a poll out to ask you all how you spend your time between sessions. And I don't know why I do this to myself, but I left this as an open-ended question rather than, say, offering check boxes and saying check all that apply, because I didn't want to limit people's responses. And I figured the average person would send in like a list of things they might do between sessions rather than just one answer. So did I meticulously go through everyone's list of answers and then compile them into a chart to know which responses were most common? Yes, I did. Did that take much longer than I anticipated? Yes, it did, but I actually found it quite interesting, so I'm going to share those results in today's episode. And yes, if you are interested about how I spend my time between sessions, then that is going to be in the extended cut of this episode, so I'll link to where you can find that below. But for our official YouTube version, we'll keep it snappy, keep it cute, and just share your responses. I posted a poll on Instagram and I asked, how do you spend your time between sessions? And, just to make sure I was clear about what I was asking, I said whether between back-to-back clients or if you have a gap in your day. So we're going to get a lot of different kinds of responses coming through. 53 people responded to this poll. Thank you, as always, for responding to these polls on Instagram. I really appreciate it so much. Like, you could just skip over my little story and you took some time to write an answer. And a lot of your answers are thoughtful with like a list of a bunch of stuff. So thank you. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the results of this poll. And remember, I just went through the lists of responses people gave of how they spent their time between sessions and counted out how many times each item was mentioned. So out of the 53 people who responded to the question, how do you spend your time between sessions? 25 people said that they will do notes or admin or emails. So again, that doesn't mean that all 25 people spend all of their time between sessions doing notes and admin work, but 25 of the people included that in their list of responses. But that does stand to question, like, what about the other 28 people? Do they not do notes and emails between sessions? Or maybe they just opted not to put it in their response because they were highlighting something else. Maybe folks don't do those between sessions. Maybe it's like you save it for the end of the day, or you have a designated day in the week that you do that separately for admin time. I'm so curious about all of these things. And the next most frequent response from 21 people was eating or drinking. Now, some of the people were clearly acknowledging like a proper lunch break, like you have a longer gap between sessions. But a number of people were talking about like cramming in some snacks, some candy in between those back-to-back sessions. And that kind of stood out to me, that it was noteworthy enough that we're trying to like cram in snacks between our back-to-backs enough that like this is the second most frequently cited thing people mention. People are also talking about just like going to refill their water bottle between sessions, or, grabbing a coffee or tea or something like that. Obviously, we need to eat food. It just stands out to me that like if we were to ask folks in other professions how they spend their time between meetings, or I don't know, like would that be the second most commonly given response, or would that just be assumed that because we are humans and we need to eat and drink in order to function, that that's obviously going to happen? I don't know. But it just stands out that that is the second most given response, when to me it's like, I sure hope you're eating and drinking during your workday. But yeah, I relate with that. You have to kind of cram it in sometimes. And along the same vein, 16 of the 53 people mentioned taking a bathroom break. I sure hope that you're taking bathroom breaks throughout the day, but maybe the fact that folks are mentioning this as like how they spend that, sometimes 5 minutes or 2 minutes between sessions for some folks, it's like eat a quick power bar and like run to the bathroom and hope you make it to your next session on time. You really feel it if you're doing that back to back to back. And then 15 people said that either walking or some type of body movement was something that they spent their time between sessions doing. Now, even though for most of the responses folks gave for this poll, they just kind of listed things out, wrote as far as what activities they do. You know, might it say like bathroom break, comma, filled my water bottle, comma, notes, comma. For this one about walking or getting some movement in, a lot of folks acknowledged how taxing it is to sit for so long in the day and how they like have to move their body. For example, one person, after saying they spend some time in their longer gap walking outside or standing up, they said, quote, too much sitting down. That's one thing that I didn't think about very much entering this profession is if you're seeing therapy clients in this sort of most traditional talk therapy format that I think most of us are utilizing as therapists, you spend a lot of time sitting. If I'm honest, I have no idea how folks in other careers spend their time as far as how much time they get to move their body versus feeling glued to their desk. But certainly it applies for therapists that we have to be pretty intentional about scheduling time in our schedule to move our bodies. Otherwise, we're just sitting. And 14 people gave the next most common response, which was using social media or scrolling. I think it's kind of funny how many people specifically use the word scrolling versus just like going on Instagram or, checking out TikTok. To me, at least, when people use the word scrolling, it references a very specific kind of using social media that has a little bit more of that dissociative quality, or at the very least, a passive quality. Scrolling is less intentional and more just like letting the app and the algorithm decide what you get. I think highlighting that point, somebody said in their response, quote, Instagram dissociation, LOL. And someone even referenced in their response that if they had a particularly difficult session, then that's when they would go to Instagram between sessions. Okay, I love this next response. 7 people said that they will either lie down or sleep. It makes sense to me that so many of us would want to lie down. First of all, we're either in our home or we likely have a couch in our office that we can lie down on. And of course, the work that we do can be quite tiring by nature, especially just depending on the type of work that you do with your clients or even just specific sessions that were particularly heavy. And then after that, 6 people said either watching TV or YouTube. 6 people said they spent time with their pets. And 4 people said they would check their phone, like text messages in particular. And 3 people said they would go to a store of some sort. And after that, there are a whole bunch of responses that either only had 1 or 2 people giving that response, so I didn't include them in this little chart. But the thing that really stands out to me is that only 2 people referenced spending time with others. 2 people out of 53 people spend time with others at least sometimes between therapy sessions. And that just, I don't know how to respond to that because something's not right. That's my perception of that. And is it that, maybe some people do spend time with others, but that feels more like a default or a given? I don't think so, because people are putting eating and drinking and bathroom breaks on their responses. So that tells me that maybe people aren't spending any time with others between therapy sessions. That's gotta affect us. Now, obviously in our little 5-minute gaps, we're probably not having a full-on hangout with someone, but I'm thinking at the very least, during your longer lunch break, hopefully you have one. You could potentially be doing it together with somebody. All right, well, I didn't script this video, so I'm sure it was all over the place as always, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone who responded. I appreciated that you gave the real answers and not the answers that whatever someone told us in graduate school or something that we're supposed to do. I hope you all feel validated in however you spend your time between sessions, or if you'd be helped by slowing down or, scheduling an extra gap somewhere in your schedule so that you can grab a coffee with a friend or get to know your office neighbor or something else. By all means, go for the gold. I support you. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes helps with all of your practice management needs, from scheduling to notes to billing. They have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform and so much more. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, I'm curious, as you're watching this, how do you spend your time between sessions? I'd love to hear from you if you're willing to share in the comments. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.